Hi, this is Kevin Deal from Upscale Audio, and today we're going to talk about being young again. This is the KLH Model 5. I am one of the few people on YouTube that will talk about this speaker that actually had experience with KLH way back in the day. Because back in 1978, I worked at a place that sold KLH Model 17s. I worked at another place. We sold close Nova beams and Advent projection TVs. I mean, and God, you know, I got to tell you something. When I look at something like this and I get that vintage vibe, it makes me feel like I'm a teenager again. I mean, I just feel like putting on a pair of platform shoes and just having a good time. Back then, we used to talk about the East Coast sound versus the West Coast sound, which was kind of a funny thing. West Coast sound was like JBL and then Cerwin-Vega, you know, and ported speakers that were higher efficiency and kind of, they used to call it a rock and roll sound, rock and roll speaker, which really wasn't entirely true. I mean, because JBL made some very accurate stuff back then. And then you had the East Coast sound, and typically that meant that it was an acoustic suspension loudspeaker, and that would be like an Advent or a KLH or an acoustic research. But people always think about KLH being an acoustic suspension speaker because that was their gig, right? No, they made acoustic. Well, that's not entirely true. They did make ported speakers too. In fact, one of them was one of my favorites, the KLH Baron. The Model 355. I remember that speaker real well. And you go, well, Kevin, what was it about that speaker? Was it because it had this funky, weird, strange dome mid-range and dome tweeter? Was it because it was ported? I mean, it did sound good. It had kind of a round bass, and it was kind of a lot of fun. But what was it that really made it the favorite of so many of the salespeople that worked at that store? I will tell you, it had a glass lid on top, just like the JBL L300s, and we used that for chopping up lines of cocaine because that's what was happening back in the 70s. Now, before you go off on a tangent and say, oh, there goes Kevin, he's supporting drug use again, I am not. I don't use drugs. I don't even smoke dope. I don't even drink, right? So give me a break. You know, I did plenty of things back then, but I love being a typical old person. Now that I had my fun, I'm going to tell you not to have your fun, because that's what we do. So this is the KLH Model 5. It is a bitchin' speaker. It's a 10-inch three-way. It is an acoustic suspension. And I got to say something, man. When I saw these, not just when I saw them, because they made me feel good immediately, it's when I played them. You know, the bass response on this speaker is really, really full. And I was wondering how they do that. Well, I took the speaker apart, and this bass driver, it's a 10-inch bass driver with a 6-pound magnet structure. It's got a flat, the voice coil wire is flat. It's got this flux stabilizing ring, and they did all this stuff to keep the distortion low in the bass. But they did something better than that, and I was wondering, that's why I had to take it apart. The bass, this is a sealed cabinet, right? So there's going to be a lot of pressure within the cabinet, what they call an air spring. Well, that can affect the mid-range driver. When you're pushing a lot of air in this way, guess what it's going to do here? Well, they did the right thing in the speaker. Number one, it's got a big old brace right here to keep the cabinet really, really stiff. Number two, the 4-inch mid-range driver is in its own sub-enclosure. And that was the right thing to do, and it's the best thing to do. And it's demonstrated by the fact that the mid-range is absolutely fabulous. Now, while we're looking inside the cabinet, I want to show you this. Look at the crossover, right? I mean, it's got iron core inductors, big mylar capacitors. I mean, it is really, really well done. Now, you've heard me talk about mid-range drivers with some other manufacturers, and I will say this. If it's a little bit smaller diameter mid-range driver, my experience tells me that you want to spend a little bit more time on positioning. And you should spend time on positioning anyway. Listen, I don't care if you buy this or any other speaker. I don't even care if you buy it from me. You got to do something. Number one, let them break in for 500 hours because you don't even know what it sounds like until you get to 500 hours. Number two, spend time on positioning. That's why when you buy a set of speakers from Upscale Audio, we're going to send you a speaker setup disc or thumb drive with 2 sets of instructions. The basic set of instructions for people that are a little new, and then the set of instructions for the obsessive compulsive disorder guys and gals that want to take it a step further. And it takes two people to do it, because you got to be listening while your friend gives it little adjustments. And if you move this speaker an inch, or any speaker an inch, it can all come together and it can all fall apart. You cannot do it with a tape measure. You cannot do it with a laser beam. These guys that say they can do that, they're on crack. You cannot do that. You gotta do it while you're listening. That's how the magic happens, and that is really the only way that you can have the speakers truly disappear. Think about binoculars, right? You've adjusted binoculars. You know how the two images cross over each other and then they are too far apart and disembodied, and then it snaps. It is the exact same thing with loudspeakers, and we're going to show you how to do it, and we give you the software to make it happen. All right. 4-inch mid-range driver, 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter. Now, I love this tweeter. It is not bitey on top. It is absolutely easy to listen to. It says it's 90.5 dB efficient. That might be a little bit hopeful, but it's awfully close. But, I mean, the good news is they're still pretty easy to drive. Now, we ran these with a 36-watt Prima tube amp, and it was just rocking it. And I'll tell you why. The speaker is a 6-ohm speaker, that's what they call it, but then the minimum impedance is like 3.4 or 3.6, something like that. It doesn't have a real crazy impedance curve, so it seemed to be agreeing with a lot of different amps. That's always good news. And if you have a tube amplifier, remember this: if your amp has a 4-ohm tap and an 8-ohm tap, do not look at what the speaker says. You always experiment and do that by ear, because that's really critical. So always remember that. It has an adjustment on the back for the high frequency driver, so you can go in 3 steps. You have a 3-step high frequency control, so you can get a little bit softer top end or get a little bit more bite depending on what your own personal taste is. Now it comes with these beautiful grills, and this beautiful stand, which is just super bitchin'. And then look at the grills, right? That is nice. They are magnetic, they're nicely done, and check this out. Now they make another grill which is kind of a linen color that is really attractive, but those are $200 each. Or you buy this speaker with the walnut cabinet, and it will come with that color of grill. Walnut cabinets are new. They'll be in stock very soon. I'm going to say something else about that. There's a whole stink about being able to get these. Can't get them. At Upscale Audio, you know how we roll, right? You've seen pictures of my warehouse. You see how we invest money in inventory. I get it. I mean, I buy this stuff too, and I know you don't want to wait. So if there's an outage on something and you're waiting for it to come back, it's going to be at Upscale Audio first, because that's how I spend my days. I don't get to talk to customers. I got salespeople. I am beating the bushes to get product in here, and I'm pretty damn good at it. I mean, that's my gig, is getting you stuff. So bitchin' speaker comes in a really cool package. I mean, in that each speaker is boxed individually, and then the stands, and then they're put into a much larger box. So we like that. I have to say something. It is just a real triumph. They're going to be coming out with some other models down the road that are going to be cool, but this one is the hottie at $2,000 with the stands. I mean, it's a pretty hard package to beat. This is a real mahogany, African mahogany veneer, and it looks great, and it feels wonderful, and it's going to age well. I mean, stuff like this, it always works. So look, go to our website. If you buy these from us, and if you don't like them, we have a 60-day money-back guarantee. We'll refund every penny of your money, and thank you for buying them in the first place. But, you know, more importantly, my salespeople will talk to you to make sure that they're appropriate. They are not on commission. If I ever catch one of my salespeople trying to sell you something, I'm going to kick their fanny, because that's not the vibe I want to have here. We want people to have a good time. We want them to think kindly of us, and we want to do things that are appropriate. Go to our website, talk to my sales staff, put them in the shopping cart, shop at Upscale Audio. I promise you this, we're going to treat your system like it's ours. Thanks.